Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about the CoverGirl competition that Inked magazine hosts every year. Many people online speculate that this is actually just a scam for free advertising and that it's not a fair competition. So that is what we are looking into today. If you're new here, my name is Sally EST and I post tattoo related content right here every week. So let's dive into the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition. So Inked magazine has a yearly competition looking for the next tattooed model for the cover of one of their magazines. And if you think about it, it's just like a really diluted version of America's Next Top Model, but for the tattoo world. And now that I think about it, if Inked magazine got their shit together and made this into a reality TV show, I'd definitely watch that. That would be some good TV. The lucky winner gets flown out on an all-expenses paid trip for a session with a celebrity photographer where they take photos that will eventually be on the cover of an Inked magazine. The winner also gets $25,000 and a 2-page spread in the magazine, so needless to say, this is a pretty huge deal. So this year is Inked magazine's 5th CoverGirl competition to date. The way you win the competition is by public voting, and there's a few voting cycles the contestants need to get through in order to win. It's speculated that maybe tens, if not hundreds of thousands of women apply for the chance to win the grand prize. Inked magazine has not come out and said how many women have applied to be their CoverGirl, nor have they said how many women they admit into voting, but we can assume it's a pretty large amount just based off how many women post that they're entered into the competition. Inked magazine is actually pretty cagey when it comes to numbers until they get to the quarter-finalist voting period. So for instance, right now I can't go on the CoverGirl website and look through like a library of all of the women who are entered. That doesn't exist, but all the women who are entered currently have a unique website that they can share and then people can vote for them through that. There's also no public display of the votes that each woman receives, but they do get a rank within their initial groups. So there is no way to find out how many votes have been cast or for who. So how Inked magazine keeps a lot of these voting details secret from the public is really not helping them with these rumors that their competition is a scam. Especially since the winners are supposedly chosen by the public, so it just doesn't make sense that the public wouldn't have these answers to the voting details. The voting also resets with each voting round, so say you got a bunch of people to vote for you and you finally made it into the quarterfinalists. You would then have to have those people vote again and again and again to have their votes really count towards you winning. So the voting for the 2022 Inked magazine CoverGirl is currently underway. Voting began on January 15th, quarterfinal voting begins on February 25th, semi-final voting begins on March 4th, and then the final voting is March 11th, with the winner being announced on March 17th. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have never once read a terms and conditions agreement before starting research on this video, and now I feel like I actually might, because there really is a lot in these terms and conditions you're agreeing to by submitting into the competition. For example, you are handing over the copyright to every single image that you submit in the competition to Inked magazine that they can use in any way without limitation and without consideration to the entrant. And I know we give up a lot of copyright when we post on social media and things like that, but just having that written out that Inked magazine now owns your photos that you submit to them and they can use them in any way they want, that's just like terrifying. So moving on, the only official qualifications you need to enter are that you need to be over 18, you need to be a woman, and you need to submit photos to enter with. But just by meeting these qualifications and submitting does not mean that you will be entered into the competition. There's actually some pretty interesting fine print in the rules that reads, "Sponsor will select, in its sole, absolute, and complete discretion, which entrants will participate in the competition." So what this means is that Inked magazine has complete control over who gets entered into their competition no matter what. And it doesn't say how they decide, but it just says that they have complete discretion to choose who has the ability to be voted for. So you might enter into the competition, and for literally any reason, Inked magazine could just deny you from participating. And you definitely won't figure out why they deny you. So for me, this is pretty suspect because it creates a lot of gray area with how and why they're making this decision. And this is especially concerning considering the past winners of the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition all look very similar. The majority of the past winners are very thin, cis, white women. The first winner of the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition in 2018 was Brooklyn St. Patrick. In 2019, the winner was Chelsea Schaefer. In 2020, Courtney Elowar won the CoverGirl competition. This is their only woman of color, and in the press release, they described her as their exotic beauty. And then last year in 2021, Jessica Carter won the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition. So like I said before, the competition is based off of public voting. There's one free vote per person per day, and if someone would like to vote more than once a day, they can pay for more votes. So extra votes are $1 per vote, and you have to buy a minimum of 10 votes every time you purchase. So you're spending at least $10 if you would like to do extra voting. Now there is a portion of the money from the competition that is being donated to charity, but it is only 25% of the net proceeds. The charity is the Music Cares Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization that offers preventative, emergency, and recovery programs to support the health and welfare of the music community. This is a great and a really reputable charity, so this is a really good part of the competition. However, this paying for votes thing is where one of the main problems with this competition comes to light. So even though a portion of the proceeds do go to charity, Inked magazine is very careful in the terms agreement to state that all paid votes are not considered a donation in any way. I think this is to compensate for the amount of language being used in promotional posts online that seem to suggest that if you buy votes for a certain girl, that your money is going to charity, when in reality, only a small portion of the proceeds are being donated to charity by Inked magazine. So this is really key, and it benefits Inked magazine in two major ways. Number one, by Inked magazine being the one to take the money and donate it to charity, their charitable donation is tax deductible. And two, people are more incentivized to buy votes if a charity is involved, when in reality, all this is really doing is padding the pockets of Inked magazine executives in the name of helping musicians. So they're getting more money and they're being able to deduct more taxes because of it. And there's no way to really know how much money Inked magazine is getting from this competition because of how they hide the figures on the voting, but you can imagine that they're probably making a lot of money. Aside from where the money goes, the fact that you can even buy votes creates an unfair advantage in the competition. And I hate to say it, but these women are essentially competing for who can make Inked magazine the most amount of money. And just in case you were wondering, Inked magazine is owned by Pinchazzo Publishing Group Incorporated, and the president of that company is this guy. And I don't know what it is about this guy, but he just bothers me. And it might be that he has no tattoos, but it's probably all the weird memes he posts on his Facebook page, like this one. I don't know what to say about it, but it feels weird to me that this guy is making all this money off of these inked women. Moving on from that guy, not surprisingly, there is a strict no refund policy, even if the contestant you voted for resigns from the competition. Those who entered the competition, though, are not permitted to vote for themselves, whether it's paid or not. And if you're caught voting for yourself, you can be disqualified from the competition. You can also be disqualified if there's any proof of you using a bot to cast votes for you, or if you're caught cheating in any way. I haven't seen any reporting of anyone being disqualified from the CoverGirl competition because of cheating. That's not to say it didn't happen, there's just no record of it happening. Now, there's something that really bothers me about this competition, and this is just my personal opinion from what I've seen, but I feel like there's a certain expectation of a level of sexualization that the women who win have to portray. Now, there's absolutely 100% nothing wrong with any woman who decides to dress, act, pose in any sexual way. But for me, the problem is with the expectation for women to do so in order to win this competition. And I think that points to a larger issue of the sexualization of tattooed women in American society. According to Lucy McLaughlin in The Materiality of Tattooed Women, Sexualization, Reputation, and Misinterpretation, quote, "Women with tattoos are traditionally subject to extreme sexualization and objectification. In 2007, Swami and Fernham presented 84 female and 76 male undergraduates with a series of 16 female line drawings. These drawings varied in levels of tattooing. The undergraduates were then asked to rate the drawings on various factors, such as attractiveness and alcohol consumption. This study found that the undergraduates believed there was a correlation between sexual promiscuity and tattoos. The more tattoos a woman has, the more sexually promiscuous she is." So if you are a female identifying individual with really any amount of tattoos, this study finding will come as no surprise to you. Lucy McLaughlin goes on to explain that according to feminist theory, when women get tattooed, they are going against patriarchal norms and they are intending to take ownership of one's own body. However, Lucy argues that through the sexualization of tattooed women, the tattooed body is more affected by patriarchal standards. So instead of our bodies being reclaimed, they are simply recategorized as socially deviant, and thus another way to reduce women. This is an amazing paper, by the way, and I will have it linked below if you would like to read more. So that is why the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition is really bothersome for me personally, because I feel like it's really reductive to women's bodies and their tattoos as sexual objects. There's really very little consideration given to the quality of these women's tattoos, why they get tattooed, or what they want to do with the prize money. Not only does this harm women in general, but especially women of color. There's so little representation of darker-skinned individuals in the tattoo community in general, and Inked magazine is really exacerbating this issue by centering whiteness as the ideal for tattoos. If white, thin, cis women keep winning this competition, then thin, white, cis women remain in a huge position of privilege, myself included, making women of color at a greater risk of objectification and hypersexualization when they get tattooed. So while the issues of sexualization and lack of inclusion are incredibly important, that does not constitute this competition as being a scam. Legally, the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition is not a scam. Morally, I'm not so sure, but there is nothing fraudulent that Inked magazine is doing in this competition. So while I will say that Inked magazine competition is not a scam, it is a pretty sad way for Inked magazine to get more attention and money from tattoo lovers. Inked magazine really is just grasping at straws for a way to stay relevant today, as pretty much no one really cares about the magazine until the CoverGirl competition is running. And you can see that really clearly from this Google Trends report. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to say that I have nothing against women who enter themselves into this competition. This is an amazing prize, and the fact that they're putting themselves out there for public voting, I have a lot of respect for them. That's not an easy thing to do. I'm all for empowering and uplifting women and their choices. So to be in this competition, I have absolutely no problem with. I don't personally think the competition or the magazine are doing anything helpful for tattooed women or the tattoo community in general, but I have nothing against the women involved. But that is all I have for you guys today on the Inked magazine CoverGirl competition. Please let me know what you think down below about everything we've discussed today. How do you feel about this competition and tattooed women in the tattoo community in general? But if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have, leave me this emoji in the comments so that I know that you are a real one. Bye, everyone.